Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Monday's Wealth Creation Show. And today we are going to cover the topic of core beliefs. And I think we're going to try our best to delve in today to really what core beliefs are, where they come from, how they influence how people, live their life and follow their own journey because of these ingrained beliefs that maybe they've picked up earlier in the years in their childhood and things as well. So we'll try and delve into that as much as we can. I mean, would you agree, Jim, that your core beliefs are such a big influence on who you are and how you operate as a person?
I think it's one of the fundamental reasons why a lot of people are in complete conflict in their life right
Mhm.
now is because what they're doing is not in complete alignment with their core beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's the majority of people, believe it or not. So if you're not content with your life right now, if you're not happy with your life right now, if you want more and you're not happy where you are, there's just something, but you can't put your finger on it. It is often down to the fact that you're not in congruence, in other words, in alignment with your core beliefs within yourself.
Now, a lot of people might resonate and relate to that feeling, but then they might think, well, I don't know what my core beliefs are. Really, they might not how to truly identify what they are and how that's affected them. So that's something we're going to have a wee chat about today, and how you could probably look at how you do things and look at yourself and identify what your core beliefs are and identify what they are.
Yeah, I'll probably give a lot of
Hmm.
this is the facts, and also here's some good analogies throughout
Okay.
this. So listen out for these
Yeah.
because it'll give you a really good example, especially if you don't understand what core beliefs is and where you are right now.
Mhm.
And as you said, Richard, what is your core beliefs? The hell is that? It's
Yeah.
like the only reason I know about this is because I trained with Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
and he talked about this a lot, and you have trained with him as well.
Mhm.
He talked about this quite a lot about core beliefs and being in alignment and being in congruence with yourself, and how that could throw you a complete kilter, and you could go through probably a lot of turmoil in your life, and
Mhm.
often. You begin to repel other people. You begin to reject them, and thinking it's them, but in actual fact, it's you.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I've obviously researching this before we sat down today, and there was a lot of evidence of people having really unrealistic or unhelpful core beliefs, and then that in turn really negatively affects them as a person and their mental health and just their overall
Yeah.
satisfaction and contentment within their life, and they don't,
Mhm.
and they're not even aware of it.
Yeah, I would agree. They're not aware. How do I know that? How do I know this stuff? How does Mel Robbins know all this stuff? If everybody knows Mel Robbins and follows her and listens to their podcast, how does Steve Bartlett know about this? Diary of a CEO. How
Mhm.
does Tony Robbins know about this? Because they've all been through it anyway, and all they're doing is speaking from experience about based on them. No one is untouchable in this situation. No one gets up and is in
Yeah.
complete alignment when they pop out, for birth, and they're never their whole life in complete alignment with their core beliefs. At some point in time, they won't be in complete alignment, and
Yeah.
some point in time, you will be asked to make a choice if you're in for what you believe in and what other people believe in, and that will conflict with your core beliefs itself.
And that's a good way of identifying what your core beliefs are. If you're asked to do something or carry something out and you think, I can't do that, that goes against how I feel, then that's an automatic subconscious trigger to you, like I can't do that because that doesn't align with what I believe in.
Let me give you a really hot potato now.
Okay.
It's exactly going on. Palestine
Yeah.
and Israel, you know, and the turmoil. You're just like, wait a minute, we're killing all these people,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, we're not killing all these people. It's it's a different situation for us, and I don't want to get into politics, but
No,
I'm trying to give an example about how it doesn't fall in line with your core beliefs, because the core beliefs is like, wait a minute, we shouldn't be killing people,
no, people, yeah.
but
And that's a really good example of like the two sides of the fence thing, Israel and
yeah,
Palestine.
there's an in between in this situation as well, and
Mhm.
that then flies in the face of everything. But if you go back to the original, it's like them wiping out 1,000 people in Israel. It's like, well, wait a minute, there's a bit of thought process about that as well. So
Yeah.
it's conflicting. See how it conflicts, and because it doesn't align with your core beliefs, this is what causes a lot of problems. Independence is another one.
Yeah,
Core
Scottish
beliefs want to be independent,
independence.
but then when you look at the overall situation, it's like, well, maybe we're all right where we are. So it conflicts, and this is what
Mhm.
causes a lot of aggravation between a lot of people, and this is why people do not agree, and this is why wars are waged. It's
Mhm.
like absolutely crazy because people's core beliefs aren't in alignment with what they think.
Yeah, yes, look, and it could be totally argued that people, like a person's core belief then totally governs their interactions with the whole world, the people around them, their responses to stress, and even their relationships and things as well.
Mm. And the need to actually, for some people, maybe the red, actually want to then sort the situation out. And sometimes that just makes
Yeah,
it worse because their belief in a certain situation isn't the same as the other people's belief in that situation in itself.
yeah.
I always
Just,
keep saying in that situation is sort yourself out before you end up sorting the world out, please.
mhm.
Because if
Yeah,
everybody else sorted themselves out before they sorted
the
the
world
world
would be
out,
a better place. Yeah,
the world wouldn't need sorting out.
yeah, of course. And
Get
just
your
to
own house in
elaborate,
order first. It's the
yeah,
expression.
I
And
just,
in an estate agency term, get your own house. Yes, it was a pun. In order before you sort out somebody else's.
yeah, it's like the oxygen mask on the plane thing. Sort your own first before you help others. But yeah, just to elaborate on, you said about a person being a red and things. That's obviously that's a color scale or a color panel where people go through an exercise to establish where they are in terms of their
Yeah.
response and how their attitude is towards certain things. So, Jim, you're a red.
Reds are quite domineering.
Yeah.
Yellows are like, oh, throw caution to the wind. I just love everybody. They're extroverts. Greens are a bit extrovert as well, but they like to help people all the time. And blues tend to be quite detailed and analytical and very introvert.
Yeah. I think I was a, I think I was a, somewhere between a blue and a yellow. I think.
Do you know?
Um,
Do you know if you go to a function? You know, people talk about. Here's a classic example, and let's just exaggerate that a wee bit more and
yeah.
talk about
Okay.
that a wee bit more about personality profiles. You know what type of personality if you are, if you're an outgoing or if you're an introvert or an extrovert. If
Yeah.
you go to a party, okay, and by
Hmm.
the time you come or at a function, and you're mixing with everybody
Hmm.
and you're talking about various conversations. If you go away mentally exhausted, you're an introvert because
Right.
every
Okay.
extrovert will go away from that situation exhilarated.
Yeah, like elated. Yeah.
Yeah, and you see, they're both the same situation, and you're probably both talking about the same things. But people actually think you're quite outgoing because you're talking about them. But in
Hmm.
actual fact, if you're exhausted, if you feel mentally exhausted at the end of that night, then you are actually more than likely an introvert, and that's why because you're having to take a lot more effort to do that. Whereas extroverts, it's like,
It just
what
comes
the
naturally to
fuck?
them.
It's
Yeah.
like this is easy. It's like you know, this is what I do all the time. It's like
Yeah.
I'm exhausted mentally. I'm a very introverted person.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So then, yeah. Let's just drum down a wee bit more into like what core beliefs are. Do you know we could argue that core beliefs are really the strong belief that a person holds kind of consistently over time, and that really governs and thing is their worldwide view, sorry, and their self-perception of things. So your core beliefs have a big effect on how you react and how you are to certain things in certain situations. Um, and I think people's beliefs really help them function in a certain way, depending on how they feel about certain things and how they
Yeah.
react, um, and how their role within a certain situation plays out as well. Do you know some people could be like you say,
So
some people could be leaders, some people could hold back, some people could be very introvert or extrovert. Do you know, and that all comes back to
again,
yeah,
this is where I'm talking about, Richard. This is where it goes back to. What is your core beliefs when it comes to the Russia and
mhm,
Ukraine situation?
yeah,
What is your core beliefs Palestine and Israel? What is your core beliefs when it comes to China and America? What is your core beliefs comes when it comes to Europe and Britain? These are all different things that will give you a real handle on who you are as a person and
yeah,
what you fundamentally get. What's your core beliefs when you're at your work? You're there just as a 9 to 5er, you know,
right,
like
yeah,
for example, Dolly Parton, 9 to 5,
yeah,
that sort of thing. Or are you an art right? You know, open all hours.
Yeah.
You know, is that your sort of core belief? Is that what you really believe? So when your boss comes to you and says, "Oh, I need you to do this," you go, "Ah, no bother. It's a run of the
Mhm.
mill stuff."
Yeah.
Whereas when your boss comes to you, if you're a 9 to 5er, Dolly Parton, then you know you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. This is doing something extra outside of what I should be doing. I shouldn't be doing this." See
Yeah.
the conflict one causes
Yeah.
because that's your belief.
And
It's the
people,
same when I talked about this morning with Ian. It's like, you know, I'm walking on the beach and I'm thinking, I expect people to phone me when I'm on
mhm.
holiday. It's like, I mean, people in emergency situations, you know,
If
just
if they need to, yeah.
give me a call, let me discuss it and all the rest of it. It's like, and a couple of people did phone me, people that had, you know, friends and that, and like, oh, I'm sorry to bother you on holiday. I'm like, what? What do you mean sorry to bother me on holiday?
Mhm.
You're a friend. You would normally phone me anyway. So is it
Mhm.
a problem that I'm on holiday? And then I thought, their worldview must be completely different about how you should treat people when they're on holiday, as if it's
Yeah.
like a totally different situation and a totally different person. And you shouldn't go near these people at all. It's like,
Until that
what?
time's over. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Aye.
Yeah.
And Ian politely explained to me, is like, I'm obviously one side of the spectrum, and they're the completely other side of the
Yeah.
spectrum in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know, and as I say, we're not going to get political and things, but especially people's beliefs and their core beliefs when it comes to things like war and, as you said, about independence and things, people could get really like they're quite set in their ways, rigid, totally
Yep.
inflexible with how they view that, and won't listen to the other side of the story, or the other opinion, or the other side of the fence, or whatever. And people could get really really caught up in that, and quite like I say, inflexible about their views, which isn't
Mm.
always a good thing. I mean, in my opinion, I think you should always be open to listen to the other side. Would you agree?
In situations, but I don't.
Yeah,
I, I I wouldn't welcome uninvited opinions.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you mean.
You
Yeah.
know, it's and I've had that recently with someone, their uninvited opinion about something and wanting to
Mhm.
tell me all about it, and I'm like, and asking what my views are on it, and I'm like, I'm neutral. It's got
Mhm.
nothing to do with me. It's like I've got better things to do with my community, with my family, and with my businesses. It's
Mhm.
like, what else do I need to get involved in? It's important. It's like I wouldn't be able to change anything. So why is there a determination? And I think it's the need for affirmation from the other person to
Yeah.
see if that person is in alignment with them. That's
Mhm.
usually what comes to that. And because they're not in alignment with them, that's where conflict happens. See that? The alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. It does come down to a lot of like one person's view of another, and whether they think that's good or whether it's bad, or whether it's, you know, whether they're in agreement.
Do you know we all see the same situation, but we all interpret in our own ways based on our own personal experience. And actually,
Yeah.
as you say, you come down to a core belief.
Mhm.
Look at the example of art. I've never got it, Richard. I just don't get it at all. When I look at something on a wall and I look at different colours, I go, yeah, that maybe looks nice, but sorry, £1 million for
Yeah.
that. Are you having a laugh? That's just paint on canvas as far as I'm concerned. And £1 million could actually help somebody in help hundreds of people, if not thousands, in dire need.
Yeah.
And you're £1 million for something, a bit of paint on on
Yeah.
on canvas. Whereas other people go, you complete philistine. It's
You don't appreciate it properly, and you don't
no, that's
understand
it.
it yet.
So you see how,
Yeah.
and it's we all see the same thing,
Mhm.
but we just interpret it differently based on and it's a lot to do with what the things that you're going to talk about here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, I could appreciate art, and art could look nice and things, but I'm kind of on the same path as you. Like, paying millions of pounds for something on canvas, maybe a wee bit too much. And obviously, that relates to other different things within the same scenario. Angela, thanks for joining in today. Angela's jumped in my comment saying what one believes for someone can be different for someone else, and that's exactly what we're meaning. Do you know, it's different views on the same thing.
What does she mean by that?
I could elaborate on that, Angela, in the comments that
No,
you're
I know.
struggling.
No, I know though, but I'm just saying that I'm conflicting with it now
Yeah,
because it's like,
play
what do you
devil's
mean?
advocate.
It's
Yeah,
like, of course I know what she means, but I'm playing devil's advocate here.
yeah, but one person can have core beliefs that are inconsistent with another, but that could really create do you know, a cognitive dissonance, dissonance between people, if that makes sense. Which is
Yep.
where when one person's actions don't fit with the beliefs of the other, and they have two contradictory ideas on the same thing, basically. And that's what drives that is your core beliefs and how they're
Yeah.
different in these two people.
And that's why most employees leave businesses.
Yeah, because they don't maybe feel the same as
It's
or
not
agree
anything to
with.
do with the fact that they're not getting more money. It's got nothing to do with the fact that other things as well. It's because they have a complete difference in alignment of beliefs with
Mhm.
that company itself, and that's why they leave and they just go to another company and they look for another company that's got the same alignment. And the reality is, if they had the foresight to understand that we all don't see the world in the same way,
Yeah.
and to just slow down a bit. God, it's like the pot calling the kettle black here.
Yeah.
And to slow down a bit, it's like, because that's not what I do, is it? But I try and I understand and I learn. There was something I was watching the other day actually, and Elaine thought, what are you watching that for? It's like, you have no, you don't just agree with that at all. Eh? And I went, I don't necessarily have to agree with something to understand it,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm watching it, the documentary.
And that's quite an open-minded approach, I would say.
Of course it
'Cause
is.
even though you don't agree with something, you still want to learn and understand about that, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you have to. It's your ability to understand someone else's situation. You don't need to agree with it. Understand and have empathy more than anything
Mhm.
is your will ensure your ability to be able to potentially grow a business, for example, and potentially cooperate and collaborate with other people that you don't necessarily have the same core beliefs. But a lot of the time, a lot of people, get together and they have groups of everybody that just has the same situation.
Yeah. The interesting thing I was thinking about there when you talked about employment and how people leave employment because they don't feel like their beliefs align with their employers or whatever. But a lot of the time they'll move on, and you'll tend to find, I mean, not that they'll probably admit it to their employer, but you'll find it that they actually regret making that decision and moving
Of
on.
course they do.
And they should have so they should have took the time to maybe step back and think, right, and think about it rather than making a rash decision based on their automatic reaction to a situation. I think it's always maybe does it fall into the grass isn't greener on the other side? Does it?
The
Maybe it's
grass is
something.
never greener on the other
Yeah,
side. I can
yeah,
probably guarantee you that. And
mm,
all you need to do is make sure you water and fertilize the grass on your side a bit
yes,
more. That's all, and look after it. And that's kind of the same with relationships, isn't it?
hmm
Where people see another relationship on another side and they think, and that's, that probably tends to why people have affairs. It's like
yeah.
they see something, it's like, oh my God, that's going to be a lot better. And it's like, aye, but you didn't have to put up with the shite every day that person has because you
Yeah.
don't actually see it.
You don't see what's
You're
happening in the
not the person
background. Yeah,
you don't wake up with that person every day. You don't live in that person's head every day. You don't go about. You don't have lunch every day. You don't see that person every day. You don't go
mm.
to bed with that person every day. So therefore, that's why you don't see it. You just see that. You see the
The
wrapping.
Instagram version.
The wrapping, yeah. Well, Instagram, you could say you see the
Yeah,
wrapping on the paper on the Christmas present rather than actually what's inside it.
yeah.
And it's usually typically what's inside is like, oh well, it's just exactly the same thing. Yeah, you're right.
I think with relationships, and not just relationships between couples and things, there's any relationships. If you drop it so easily to move on to something that looks a lot better, I think is kind of the easy way out rather than work on what you've got to make it better. Do you know? And
Mhm.
who wants to start all over again? And do you know what? That's just the way I feel about things anyway.
Aye,
But
for a lot of people, Richard, they do want to start all over again because they love the thrill and the excitement of starting all over
yeah,
again. It's
mhm.
the dopamine rush and the hit they get from it because they crave it all the time. They don't realize that's happening to them, but their body is actually and their mind's actually creating that in order to get that rush every time they're doing things. Here's a classic example. I was listening to Andrew Hubert, is it, on Diary of a CEO? He was talking about people
Hubert,
that do
yeah,
cold water swimming and how they go in. And he says, one of my friends is like, oh, I was in there for a whole 30 minutes. And oh, yeah, boy, I was about passing out. And the boy went, and Andrew said, so after the first 30 seconds, did you get a wee rush? And he went, yeah. He said, you should have left the pool then.
to the left end, yeah,
Because you've been in there for 30 minutes means the next time you're going to desensitize yourself to all that distance. And then eventually, because it's like when you're a runner, when you run 5K for the first time, it's like, oh my God, that was forever. And when you run 5K after being a runner for a long time, it's like, yeah, that was just a walk in the park. When you run a half marathon, like I used to do, it's like, I'm going for a run around the block. And it's like the next minute, 2 hours later, it appear. And it's like, I think I've done nothing in between, by the way. And it's gone just like that. because I was
Hmm.
so used to it. So that's what happens with dopamine. If you get these hits all the time and you have to go longer and longer and longer to get that same hit every single time as a result of that. So once you get it, just don't hang about. Just
Yeah.
get on with it and just get the hit, and then you're out.
Rather
And
than keep trying to
aye,
prolong.
it's the cold showers. It's like, oh, I was there for 50 minutes in a cold shower, freezing myself to death. It's like, okay, did it work for you after a couple of minutes? Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Well, should have just got out after a couple of minutes then, because that's all you were after to start your day.
Hmm. Yeah. No, rather than trying to eke it out and prolong it just because you're on that, you're still trying to catch that
Because
initial high.
everybody, it's the core belief. Everybody, the people believe that the longer they go, the more they'll get out of it. The longer you go, the more you'll be desensitized to it.
Yeah. So what I done here, I stuck in some bullet points just about examples of core beliefs and things. And obviously, we've just established any deep belief that's really fundamental with a person and its interactions with the world. Um, that's their sense of core belief. And core beliefs can be positive, they can be negative, they can be neutral. So some quick examples here that I was going to run through. Obviously, the belief about goodness. So a person believes that they are good or bad, or that other people mostly are good or bad. Do you know? So it's like you've got that kind of two ways. So somebody's either, in your opinion, they're either good because they align with your
Oh,
belief, or they're bad because they're not. And that's not entirely always true.
look at the recent press that I got for second homes tax, or the
Yeah.
council tax doubling in the area.
Hmm.
I'm pretty proud of this, by the way, because I think I must have got the biggest traction in a long time for the courier.
For an article, yeah.
563 emojis,
Yeah.
322 comments, and 46 shares. And I look back all the other courier stuff, and no one got anything like that. And now there was a lot of haters on there.
Hmm.
You got to love the haters, because the haters are the ones that
They help
actually
push it
spread the
out.
word even more
I
for
just
you.
want to say, they help push the message out. So yeah.
Oh, it's great. I love the haters. But there's other people that love what I do, and they
Yeah.
love me. You know, they think I'm brilliant and all the rest of it.
And
So,
the
and yet it's
information
just the
you get
same.
from it.
It's the exact same person. But what's that makes that difference? It's their core beliefs.
Hmm.
It's what they believe. It's like the classic example about some people believe in order to be rich, you have to be a criminal.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, we spoke about that before in shows. People
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Oh,
if
he
they're
must be
rich,
doing
they
something.
must be
He
doing
must be
something.
doing
Yeah.
something. It's criminal because
Hmm.
that's why he's rich. That's
Yeah.
what some people genuinely believe. Now, why is that? Because that's the environment they've probably grown up in, where it's somebody that's been criminal around them and people have been criminal, and that's how they've gained their fortune, or they've known people like that. And that's why they genuinely believe that you must be a criminal if you're rich.
Hmm.
You must be a bad person if you're wealthy. You must have climbed over everybody else to get to the top.
Yeah.
No, well, I'll guarantee you, in order to get to the top, you don't climb over everybody else. It's everybody else that helps you and lifts you at the same time. That's how you get to the top. But you then lift them up at the back of you.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
how these people. That's how Chris Rock does it. That's how all these different people that do it. That's how. Look at Beverly Hills Cop.
Hmm.
Look at him. I mean, you know, he's been around for years,
Yeah.
right? But the amount of people he helps Eddie Murphy in his journey is huge. Same way when you look at people that are in the limelight just now, like who's the comedian? Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy
Jimmy
Carr. Yeah.
Carr helps a lot of people. Look at what's his name? The comedian, the Glaswegian, Kevin Bridges.
Or Kevin Bridges. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Bridges paid for Mark Nelson to go somewhere. And nobody knows that. And it
Hmm.
was only because I saw it in a wee snippet somewhere that Mark had said, you know, I just want to say a big thanks to Kevin for helping me. But no one publicizes these sort of things. But
Yeah.
these are the people that help the other people. These are the people. And this is a classic example. And here's a really good one about your core beliefs. My core belief used to be based on competitive nature. And I used
Mhm.
to think, and I had grown up with this, because this is like you were taught this. In order for you to win, somebody has to lose.
Yeah.
Whereas that's what I don't believe that anymore. In order for you to win, everybody else has to win with you. That's the only way you win, is everybody else wins with you. If you're the only person that wins, it's
But
probably
then
not a win.
the only way for that to happen is for you to have that kind of mindset. It's like the rising tide thing. You have to have
Yeah,
that view that you rise the tide and lift yourself as
of
well as the
course.
others around you. Yeah.
And the other one as well is, how can you be my competition if I want you to win as well?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because that's what I believe.
And then that eliminates competition, really. Then you're not
And here's the
competing.
next one that I believe. I was fundamentally put on this earth to help other people.
Hmm.
That's my belief.
And if you truly believe that, then you'll execute that and you'll carry that out,
And
which you
then,
do.
but there's other people out there that look at that and say, because you're helping other people, you must be after something. I don't want anything.
It can't be totally selfless. Like
Yeah.
selfless,
Now,
yeah.
here's some good analogies about this, and I hate to talk about myself, but this is the only ways I can do these things.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I'll
no.
give you an example about what happens. That's me just finished my €5,000 towards the community
Yeah.
in Spain
Uh-huh.
for the catch and release neuter program for Spain, for where
Yeah.
I have my house. So that's me finished the €5,000 that I gave to them over that period of time to help that happen, and it
Hmm.
has happened as a result. I was in the Green Buddha in Portugal, and there was a
Right.
guy behind me, and he was treating his date or his friend or his girlfriend or his wife.
Hmm.
Had a cake on there and everything like that, and it was her birthday and everything. And before I left, I said to the thing, I says, you know, what's that going to cost him? And she said, oh well, it's probably going to be €50. I went, just take €100 off my card then. I says, and pay for that. And I says, if he wants anything else, give them it up to the €100. If you've got money left, then give it to somebody that needs it. It comes in the
Hmm.
cafe. And they went, you're a really good soul. Now, I didn't need, I'm only telling you this, but
Yeah.
otherwise I wouldn't have told anybody, to be honest. But that is what I really believe in.
Yeah.
You're there to, for me personally, I'm there to pay it forward
I was
because it
just
was
going to
done for me. So why would I not do it for it? So there's loads and loads of other examples of what I do and all the rest of it, but I'm not going to go into it. But that's not why I do it. I don't need the appreciation. I don't need people to
the
to
validation.
validate me. I don't need the validation.
Hmm.
I'm I'm at one with myself. I don't need that, and that is my core fundamental belief. I am here on this earth to help other people in their journey.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. Like you've been successful in your own journey by your own means. So you're at that point where it's like, I don't need to do things to get validation. Not that you maybe ever did, don't know, but a lot of people, that's what they do.
No, I
That's the
did
whole
in the
point.
early days. In the early days, this was I had my thinking was all screwed up. You know,
Hmm.
before I had my mentors, my thinking was all screwed up. I was the, you know, oh, you must be doing something criminal, and if you know, I
All
know
these
how to make a
things. Yeah.
million, write a book and sell it to everybody else, you know, and then you'll make a million, and all the rest of it. You know, I was very cynical about everything. That's
Right.
exactly how I was when I was younger. I think I was very bitter, but that's a lot to do with my past and
Hmm.
how I was treated when I grew up, not by my mother and father, but you know, by the environment that was round about me,
Yeah.
and how that manifested itself overall. So it takes a lot of understanding and a lot of soul searching
Yeah.
to really get to what your core beliefs are. But over a period of time, you'll begin to realize who you are as a person and what you really believe in. I used to walk in and I used to give people an opportunity to start their business from basically scratch, you know,
Hmm.
like 60 quid investment. We'll get you started. You can sell all your product you want. This was like the early days, way before the internet and way before Shopify. And that's effectively what it was. It was like having your own online shop, access to all your goods and everything like that for 60 quid. And then when I used to build that dream with people and used to talk to people, you know, if you were, you know, if you had an extra £1,000 or £2,000 a month, what would you have? And a lot of people would say, oh my God, I'd be able to help this person, I'd be able to help that person. But there was other people that used to say, I would fucking rub it in people's faces. Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
And that's just the
And
wrong attitude to have.
needless to say, these people never went anywhere
Yeah.
because that's the type of person they were. They actually genuinely thought that was the right thing to do.
And
Whereas I was like, oh my
that's not
God,
easy. Yeah.
I'll not be working with you then.
Yeah.
I'll not be helping you aspire to do that to someone else. But, you know, over a period of time, you try to change these people's way of thinking, but then they gravitate away from you because they're not like you.
You don't align.
You'll gravitate the people you're like. You are the sum of the 5 people round about you, your closest friends and acquaintances. You're the
Yeah.
sum of these 5 people. And if you don't like these 5 people round about you, the sum of these 5 people are the closest acquaintances to you, then that's a reflection of you.
Yeah.
That is you.
I actually touched on that last week when I done the show on my own, and I touched on about, and it's quite difficult for people to even firstly just to identify that one of these 5 people around you is wrong, you know, and whether that's a close friend or even family. And it's quite difficult to then think, I need to distance myself from them. Now, it doesn't mean, like you said before, you don't need to cut them completely out of your life if it's family, but maybe just don't spend so much time and let them influence you in a negative way if that's what they're doing. And it is
You'll
quite a difficult
know
process, but sometimes
you'll know if it's the wrong person to be around. Okay, I mean, you maybe love them, all the rest of it, and
yeah,
everything like that, and you could understand them and everything like that. But if you've been out with them and you feel mentally drained by the end of the night, then that's not the person you
yeah.
should be around about, because that's not going to lift you up at all. That's not going to let you aspire to bigger things, to
It's going to
newer
hold you
heights.
back. It's going to hold you back.
That's effectively going to hold you back. That's going to they're what we call energy vampires.
Draining.
They'll suck the life right out of you. You know, within seconds. As soon as you interact with them, you know, you maybe love them a bit. You've maybe known them from. I know people I knew when I was at nursery and when I was at primary, and when I meet them now, it's like, oh my god, I need to stay away from you as quick as possible. It's like Jesus. They're like
Yeah,
energy vampires. It's like straight away, everything bad about the world, everything negative that's going on, everything. It's like, oh my god, it's like I need to get away from this,
yeah,
because it does suck the life right out of you, and they just want you to be right like them. They're telling you that because they want you to agree with them, so they've got someone that can align with them, so they're all in a club together. Yeah, we're all in the club together, we're all down in the hole, and we're all
yeah.
dancing in the hole, and that's it really. And it's like, no, I want to give you the ladder to get out the hole, and if you're not going to come up the ladder out the hole, then I'm going to stay up here. I ain't going down there with you.
Because they'll just pull you back in.
Of course they will. You'll never get out.
Yeah.
That's why quite a few people are actually stuck where they are, because they refuse to do anything about it, and they let people actually control their lives because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
You need to listen more to other people outside of your circle. You need to listen more to the people that have actually done something. You know, the Mel Robbins is I'll go back to it again. I mean, you know, from her life and how she's turned it around. There's a classic example about leading by example and actually showing you the way around and the way to turn your life around as a result of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you touched quite a lot there about, obviously we spoke about likability and things there as well. And people do have that vision, like some people are convinced like they're totally unlovable, or some people think, yeah, I am quite likable, or do you know, and you said there as well, people have a view like the world's such a dangerous place, or the world's like fundamentally unfair. Do you know, and that's what people's views are. Or some people might have a wee bit of more
Here's the
positive
bottom line.
as well.
Here's the bottom line. Listen for it. This is the truth bomb. Anything you do in your life will be designed to be loved by another person. Anything you do is the objective is ultimately to be loved by other people, because that's what we crave as human beings.
Everybody
We are
strives for.
hardwired within our DNA in order to be loved and to love. That is our core fundamental, deep down DNA written fundamental within us. And if you go against that, you will live in turmoil for the rest of your life. So everything you do, whether it's destructive or not, is all designed for the craving, the need for wanting, and need for love,
Yeah.
the need for affirmation from other people. It is just a human trait that we have.
And that's something that you can't change, but you could alter the way that you obviously
You go about
like.
it. It's like the person that stays in a relationship and continually gets torn to pieces and continually gets,
Like
physical violence,
abusive
mental
relationships
violence,
and things, yeah.
financial, abuse, and all the rest of it. And they'll still continue to do that because this is the only person that they think actually loves them for who they are. And they think that no one else will love them. So they're terrified to leave because they've got no other connection with anyone else. And that's what keeps them where they are. The fear,
Yeah.
the
And the people
false expectation of appearing real. Fear.
Mhm. And then people that do go through that long journey to maybe get out of that situation, once they get to that point, they'll look back and think, why did I stay there all so long? And once they get to the other side, but a lot of people don't, and that's the thing. They stay
Of
stuck in
course,
that cycle.
because they've seen the light.
Hmm.
They've seen the light. That's why addicts come
Yeah.
together, because they've
Yeah.
got a common bond, because they're all addicts.
Hmm.
But because they've got that common bond, they feel wanted by each other because of
And
that.
there's the
But,
validation. They love
but
validation, I think.
yeah, but even though it's a destructive relationship, that's why
Hmm.
they're not when you go to Alcoholics Anonymous and stuff like that, and I only know this because I know people like this, and
Hmm.
I've researched it. When you go to Alcoholics and stuff like that, they don't recommend that two people that are actually both alcoholics actually get together,
No.
because that's a more likely chance of they have children, that they will, the children will be alcoholics as well and addicted.
Hmm.
And that, for that, because it's within them.
And
It's as a
yeah.
result of them, and it's what their life has lived. So it 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 it, it takes a lot of time for people to get over things like that, and get through them.
And to
But
repair.
it can be.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, it can be changed.
Hmm.
It can be reprogrammed.
I think anything can, as long as you are prepared and have the right mindset to work on something to change it for the better and change it in a different direction. But
Here's
that
where you
kind of
start. You start looking in the mirror, and this is a good health, a healthy self love. You sit and
okay.
look in the mirror every single day and tell yourself, in every way and every day, I'm getting better and better. And smile at yourself in the mirror.
Mhm.
Every day and every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day and every way, I'm getting better and better. Every way, every day and every way, you're getting better and better. And you're
Mhm.
looking at yourself every single time in that mirror.
And talking yourself
Every
up.
day and every way, you're getting better and better. And see that wee person in the back of your head talking, tell him to shut up.
Yeah.
And that's it. Every single time. And if you do that every single day for 31 days and don't stop doing that every single day, then you will break a pattern of habit. And every day and every way, you'll be getting better and better. And if you look on a year from now, we're doing that every single day, I'll guarantee you, if you look back a year after before that, you'll have a huge improvement in your life just out of that one thing. Every
Mhm.
day and every way, I'm getting better and better. Now, I used to do that, just because I was told to do it, because I was quite like, oh, right, okay, if you're saying it works, Jerry, I'll do it.
And did you feel silly doing that to start with?
Of course I did.
Yeah.
Of course I did. I was like,
But now it makes sense why
I
you're
was looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, am I going to go poo?
But does it now make sense and you realise the benefit of that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Because you're programming your mind every single time. You're telling you, and that's the person you need to convince.
Mhm.
You
No
don't
one else.
see, this is the
Yeah.
problem. This is what people do. They're trying to convince everybody else outside of them that they're that type of person, when in actual fact, this person knows exactly what type of person you are. So
Yeah.
you could post all the Instagrams you want. You can post all the social media, Facebook posts you want. You can do all the YouTube channels and YouTube podcasts you want. You can do all these different things. You can tell everybody how fantastic it is. But the reality is, you know exactly how it is.
Yeah.
That's the person right here you've got to convince. You.
Yeah. And stop maybe
Nobody
lying.
else.
Yeah.
Nobody else. I'd see that every single time. When people rush to Instagram to take loads and loads of photographs of themselves all the time, and their profile picture changes all the time, I
Mhm.
immediately think, who are you trying to convince here?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they've got that desire to keep trying to churn out
Yeah.
things to prove
Who are you
something.
trying to
Yeah.
convince? The
Yeah.
filter. The filter goes on, perfect place, and it's like almost angel-like, and it's like, who are you trying to convince?
Yeah.
You're no convincing us. And then all the remarks, oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful. You don't need to convince anyone else except you.
Do you know, I get a fright sometimes when I bump into some people I've got on Facebook because I'm like, oh, didn't think you look like
That's
that.
not you, aye. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is because they have to disappear into this,
Yeah.
for want of a better phrase, fake world.
Behind a mask. Yeah.
Yeah, behind that, and they have to convince everybody how wonderful they are on social media because they don't feel that within.
Hmm.
That's your core belief, by the way. You're not in alignment with it.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. That's why it's upsetting. That's why you're drinking. That's why you're smoking. That's why you're taking drugs. That's why you're
Mhm.
staying out and partying all the time, because you need all these external hits to validate yourself and
Yeah.
keep yourself going. You're not comfortable within your own skin.
Yeah. So let's talk about, and you did touch on it slightly a wee bit, I just earlier in our conversation, but I knew we were coming to it. So to talk about where your core beliefs come from, and core beliefs obviously develop in response to person's experiences and things, and more than likely they begin developing early on in life, do you know, in your childhood, and continue to develop from there. But I mean, if you wonder about how you feel about things and how your reaction to things, think back about why that is. And you'll more than likely track it back to when you're younger. And then that's kind of indoctored into you. And that's why you've got such a strong belief about certain things, and your the way you approach things, because you believe this way because you were taught that way in your childhood. Now, whether that's by your parents, your
Yeah.
peers, do you know, whoever it is, your carers, or whatever walk of life you come from. When a child grows up, that's where they pick up these traits and these beliefs.
Aye. Think about this, Richard. If everybody's born with no set parameters
Hmm.
or set, rules, the only two things that you've got is fear of loud noises and heights. That's
Hmm.
the only two things you're born with into your DNA, loud noises and heights. That's why when you get a child gets to the top of stairs and goes, I'm going back, and it's like,
Hmm.
or bang, and it's like, whoa, and they start, that's the sort.
Yeah,
These are the only two
without
inherited,
being taught that. Yeah.
the two inherited traits within us. That's all it is. Everything else is acquired. So when you look at people, why they become criminals, why they become, not the greatest person in the world,
Hmm.
it's because of something that's caused that. Because you don't just pop out and say, "Oh, I'm going to be the most horrible person in the world. Oh, I'm going to start a war with someone." You don't. I mean, where's that come from? Because it's not come from birth.
No,
It's
you
been
need to
an
develop
acquired
that.
habit.
Hmm.
It's acquired from somewhere. Someone's upset you. I mean, I don't. I don't know much about the history of the Second World War and Hitler and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
but I knew he had obviously he had something against the Jews for some particular reason. And somebody else might want to put in the comments what that was, but that's what that was all about. He had this remark. Look at Patrick Harvey.
Hmm.
Let's put that in the same context about private landlords. Like, this guy's a nutter.
Yeah,
When
it
it
is a
comes
bit.
to private landlords, isn't it? He's got some sort of thing. Now, that was never acquired from birth, was it?
Yeah, but there were some crazy decisions made.
So that
Yeah.
something happened in his life. We all know what that was the landlord that illegally evicted him, took all the doors off his house and basically wouldn't give him a lease to get housing benefit, which was a bit weird.
Hmm.
Why would you no do that and help him? But then he's now castigated everybody and says, oh, every private landlord's like that. And we're going to have legislation forced on every private landlord for that reason. And look at where do all these political parties get their ideologies from? Because they
Yeah.
were never acquired from birth. So
So
they're all
they must
people's
draw it from
opinions.
experience, from their own experience and opinions. Yeah.
Yes, these are all opinions and experiences over time of people that congregate together to form their own ideas and their own opinions. Where do all these, the Ku Klux Klan,
Yeah.
these guys, it's like, really? Color
And
of
to us,
somebody's
that
skin?
sounds totally crazy, and to them, it's like, no, we totally believe that. And it's
Ah,
like, really?
the color of somebody's skin. They've
Yeah.
got blood, they've got two legs, two eyes, two
Bonkers.
ears,
I
and
know.
all the rest of it. It's just a different color of skin, and what? Are you are you nuts? Now,
Yeah.
people in in terms of the society and all the rest of it, it may be that perceived, but it's not anything like that at all. If you drill down the statistics, it's a complete and utter farce. It's a lie.
Yeah.
It's what they believe. But they believe it because they look for all the evidence to support it because of their core beliefs. They don't want to go against that, remember, because that is their core belief. So they look for everything to support that and ignore everything that doesn't support it. And that's why you get into arguments with people.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
some
definitely.
person goes, oh, but it's like this, and you go, but you've no thought about this, that, and this will happen and that will happen. It's like, oh, that's nothing to do with it, and that's rubbish. And it's like, well, it's no rubbish, it's fact. And you're just ignoring the facts completely. So your opinion trumps my facts. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And it's the core beliefs that say that.
Yeah. And like you were saying, obviously, children, as they grow up, and as you grow up throughout your life and things as well, you obviously try to make sense about what's happening around you, or what happens to you, or what's happened to you. And in that, and then trying to find that kind of meaning in things as well, then what you learn for that is how you develop your beliefs, set beliefs, we'll call them. But I do believe that you could change that, because I think as well, you think about, like, you see these like cults and things, and how they totally brainwash people to believe things or do things. So if you put that on the flip side, then you could also alter the way you think about something if
Yeah,
you
you
want
can.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You can't. You can't. It is absorbed from measures of families, teaching, and all the rest of it. Especially if you've got a teacher that's quite influential at school. And it's we've talked about the knowledge all the time about the 100 people sitting in the chairs, and like, what's 1 and 1, 2.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's 3. What's 1 and 1? It's 2. No, it's not. It's 3. What's 1 and 1? It's 2. No, it's 3. What's 1 and 1? It's 3. Yes, exactly right. Have a reward. What's 1 and 1? Oh, it's 3. Have a reward. What's 1 and 1? Oh, it's 3. Have a reward. And next minute, everybody believes 1 and 1's 3.
Convince everybody that 1 and 1 is 3.
You've programmed somebody's core belief.
Yeah.
And their deep down message to say that's the response every single time. If you weren't able to influence anybody like that, then why do we have marketing and why do we have advertising then, if that's the case?
Yeah.
Because then that's, if everybody believes it's right, Red Bull gives you wings. It's like, no, it doesn't. It gives you an artificial high based on the caffeine input you've been given as a result of that. That's all it's doing. It's not giving you any wings. It's just a chemical that's been put into you in order to give you that false high.
And that thought process, and then once you try the product, and then you continue to do it because you've got that thought that this is doing this, and it's actually the caffeine, and then you become addicted to the caffeine, and then you're stuck in that cycle.
Yeah. It's the same way, sitting in a cinema, eat the popcorn. So you eat the popcorn, and you think it's wonderful. When you come out the cinema, you actually say, I tell you what, try the popcorn now. And most people will go, it's not very good, is it? Well, that's the stuff you were eating.
I'm not a big fan of popcorn,
Because it's your belief that you should sit and eat popcorn and watch the
when
film
you
at the
watch
same
the
time.
movie. Yeah.
I have no idea where that come from, because I never ever sat and ate popcorn in a film. But all of a sudden, because I'd seen it on the television so much and it influenced me, it was like, we'll have to get popcorn for some reason, and juice,
Do you
and
know,
crisps,
if
and
I,
hot dogs, and burgers. And
yeah,
it's like, holy shit, that costs more money than the film itself.
I know, now it does, yeah. And do you know, and it's strange, I am not a big fan of popcorn, but see, if I go to the movies, or go to the cinema, which I don't do a lot, I'll buy popcorn, but I don't actually
So
really,
see
I'm not
how
really that, yeah,
everything, all the external factors are changing your core beliefs.
yeah.
And a lot of them, some of them actually, even though it tries to change them and you start to try and believe that, that's when it goes in conflict, because you maybe don't believe that's right. And
Yeah,
it is the classic example of 1 and 1 equals 3. And it's like,
yeah,
no, it's 2. But I'm going to force you to say 3 in order to get the reward. So you end up forcing yourself to say 3 to get the reward, but it's 2, and you're in conflict for the rest of your life. And that's what causes the stress and the turmoil. It's within. Then that starts to manifest itself in other
yeah,
ways, in your relationships with other people, especially with your partner, if you have one, and your relationships with your children, because you're now in conflict within. And therefore, everything has to get out of your system. Because if it doesn't, it just goes up and up and up and up, boom, you explode. So that's why it manifests itself outwards, and other people get the brunt of it. So when sometimes somebody has a go at me, I sometimes just ignore it and just move on. Just like, aye, okay then, fine. What's your point?
Whereas a lot of people would jump right on and start an argument, and it's like, in
There's no
response to it,
point.
yeah, there's not.
There's no point, because there's something else. It's the old thing about who kicked the cat. You know, mum gets up in the morning, has a go at dad,
Mhm.
because she's had a bad dream and she's not in the right mood. Dad gets it in the neck. Dad then tries to get the kids ready for school, and the kids are playing up, so he takes out on the kids, and then the next minute one of the kids kicks the cat, and the cat gets it. But who
Mhm.
really kicked the cat? Mum.
Mum, yeah, for starting the whole chain, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you have to be aware of, in these situations. But again, it's all down to all these core beliefs and fundamentals that you and being able to. I think it's more being able to understand yourself, to understand who you are as a person, to
Yeah.
know your own limitations and know how you should operate in order to become efficient at what you do. See, there's my core beliefs. It's like, efficiency.
Mhm.
Everything should be efficient as far as I'm concerned. And the better the efficiency, the less resources we can consume, and therefore the quicker we can get solutions to the challenges at hand. You notice
Yeah.
how I never call it a problem.
Yeah. No.
Challenge is just there to be overcome.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
And
think
a
it,
yes is always a yes is always a no waiting to happen.
mhm.
No, a no is just a yes waiting to happen. Yeah, that's it, really. Ultimately, at some point, somebody will say yes if you keep asking.
Mhm.
Why do you think kids keep asking?
Because they
Can
know
I have?
eventually
Can
they'll
I
wear
have?
you
Can I
down.
have? And it's like, how many times do you say no? And eventually you go, oh, okay then. It's like
Yeah.
you've just broken that cycle. You've just allowed them and taught them just to keep
That
going. And
if
it's
they
a
keep
great
going.
it's a great analogy. If a
Yeah.
child can do it, just become a child when you're doing it in sales. Just keep going.
Yeah.
At some point in time, somebody will go, aye, okay then.
Yeah. So I mean, people might be watching and thinking, God, I don't have any core beliefs, or I don't know what my core beliefs are. So you need to try and find ways to try and identify what your core beliefs are, because they'll give you a better perspective of who you are as a person. Do you know, you were saying that, Jim, about the way you react to things and how your initial response is, and noticing your thought process, and pay attention to what your automatic thoughts are to things, because that will really make you think about, right, okay, well, the reason I thought about that in that way is because I've got the core belief that that's wrong, or that's right, or this is the way it should be done, or that's the way it shouldn't be done.
Mm,
Um, and these are the thoughts that people often don't notice. So, but if you're consciously trying to establish what your core beliefs are, think about how your automatic thought process
yeah.
is to things, and that'll give you a good indicator on what your core beliefs are.
Hmm.
Something that I know you do, Jim, as well. Not so much a diary. I was going to say keeping a diary, but you do write a lot of things down and keep books for certain things so that you could, and it's to be able to look back over what you thought about and took notes on certain things. Do you think that helps you kind of realize that's how I thought about that then, and how maybe your thoughts change? I mean, you don't keep a diary, do you?
I keep notes of
Yeah.
situations when I'm training in order to reinforce it in my mind.
Hmm.
And yeah, once in a blue moon, I might look back to it and see what I was
Yeah.
saying. But I often send myself emails now. So,
Yeah.
over the weekend, rather than actually take a notebook out, I just send myself an email, and I get to to today, for example, and then I take all my emails, collate them together, write them down in a book, revise them again, and see which things I need to do something about now.
Yeah.
And that tends to be how I operate things. So yeah, and you become more conscious and aware of how you think and how you process things,
Mhm.
and it allows you to become more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah, keeping notes. I mean, not so much a diary day-to-day thing, but yeah, keeping notes and reviewing them and things will definitely give you that good insight into your thought process on things at certain
Mhm.
times in the past as well, as opposed to how you might think about it now. Also, asking lots of questions. And I know that this is something you taught me, because I mean, although I was always quite inquisitive, do you know, it's like ask as much questions about something that you're not sure about, and don't think that you're being because some people might think, oh, you're asking too much questions, you're being an inconvenience, but you need to really understand something before you could actually action it, or apply yourself to it. You can't just
Mhm.
jump in without knowing all the facts, or why something is in a certain way, or why it needs to be done a certain way. And that's a really important thing, I think, is to ask lots of questions.
You just become a student. The
Mhm.
difficulty is, with somebody like me, often asking a question is sometimes thought as a criticism.
Yeah,
when I
or
ask it to
something
people.
people
It's
people
like
take it
every
as like,
time I
yeah,
ask something, I tend to get a response which is almost like a defense response, and it's like
mhm,
I'm asking to find out the process and why.
mhm,
I'm not asking to find out the reason why it happened, but I'm asking to how to avoid it again.
yeah,
Ian and I talked about this morning about closing that loop.
mhm,
About closing the loop on certain things. It's like, if you've got if you and this is how I was taught. Again, another belief,
yeah,
probably inherited or acquired by one of my previous bosses in industry. And he used to ask all the time is how do we close the loop then? There's a disconnect between here and here in a process. And obviously it's fallen down at this point, but how do we get it to go over to this point? And so what do we need to instigate in order to bridge that gap? And it means, oh, well, you've got to put it in somebody's diary in order for that person to know to do it.
mhm,
And so again, it's your interactions all round about you. And it's also asking questions and being, you've got to be you've maybe got to be kind of critical about your own thinking. But don't beat yourself up about it, please. I've done it in the past. A lot of
yeah,
people do it all the time, and it goes round and round and round and round in their
yeah,
head all the time, and they tend to go in a spiral of despair and end up beating themselves up mentally. And then the next minute, tell somebody else, and then they beat them up mentally as well. And it's like, well, you didn't need to tell me because I've already done it, so I don't need
yeah.
it again. But
I
but
think
but learning from your mistakes is a really good. I tell you what, you'll learn a lot more from your failure than you will from your success.
mm, yeah, we've probably all been there where we've replayed things over and over and totally beat ourselves up about it. And then you get a couple of years down the line, you think, God, why did I go over that so much? And why
Yeah,
don't I just learn from it and move on rather than let it take up so much headspace? And
people
I've
that
been
you've
there myself.
fallen out with,
Yeah.
people that you've fallen out with over the years, and it's like, oh my
Mm,
God, when you look back, you think, how the hell did I fall out with them over that? It's
hmm,
like that was so petty at the time, but you get so wrapped up in it at
yeah.
that point in time. For some people, you get so wrapped up because it's not anything to do with the situation. It's mostly to do with the fact that you need to feel in control,
Yeah.
and that's why you're often doing it, and that's why you're often forcing your opinion on someone else because you need to feel validated and also to feel in control of the situation. And why is that? Because you're probably not in control of your own life as it is. Somebody else is.
That falls in nicely with the last point I had there on how you're identifying core beliefs, and it's considering the evidence, and considering what beliefs a person has without evidence, as you say. And it's like if a person finds out they can't change their belief despite having strong evidence that contradicts it, it's probably then going to be their core belief. And really actually looking at the evidence surrounding things, and people
Well,
falling
could
out.
you could you imagine if you fundamentally believe that independence for Scotland is the only solution to the
Hmm.
problem at hand for the nation of Scotland, and you've always ran with that. Now, this is not political, remember, but
Yeah,
I'm just using that as a great example. And then suddenly somebody comes up with clear, compelling evidence to say that that is not the way forward for Scotland.
I think they would still take a lot of convincing because
Yeah,
they've got it
but
that
they
indoctrinated.
won't. A man convinced to win against his will is of the same opinion still.
Yeah.
You can give someone the clear facts. God could come down on a golden helicopter and pronounce the commandments as the facts, and some people will still not believe it.
Hmm.
I don't believe I ever saw that. Honestly, there's some things I've
Yeah.
done in the past which is staring you blue in the face. It's like, I don't believe that. It's, what? I've just done it. And I've just shown you I've done it, and you're still not going to believe me. What? Because because it goes against everything they've fundamentally ever thought about.
Yeah. So it's like they just block it out and just, yeah.
That's why a nation goes to war and completely convinced by the what is it the false evidence that's always presented to them in their media.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, which
and both sides are completely convinced that they're right. And it's like, okay, because if both sides were convinced completely that they were right, then that's why they're at war. If one side then convinces themselves that they're not right, then that's where peace and agreement comes
yeah,
forward.
that's the things. Yeah,
And it's that common ground that people around the world are looking from the outside, then have to find between these two parties to move forward. On the perception that they accept the fact that there's things that they just can't resolve and they'll probably never be able to resolve, but for the sake of stability and the sake of peace, they're going to have to work with that and accept it. This is why having an understanding for other people's opinion is so important. You don't need to agree with them, but you can understand them.
understand. Yeah, yeah, and that's the whole thing about continually being open to listening and learning how other people's opinions are, whether you believe in them or not, or whether they align with your beliefs. So,
But let's be controversial just now, and let's talk
okay.
about identity, gender.
Yeah, that's a big one just now.
So who decided it was male and female?
Yeah, originally, yeah, and then
No,
people
I'm
go
not
back.
arguing against it. I'm not arguing for.
Yeah.
But where did that come from? That was an indoctrinated system in order for people to keep control.
Hmm.
Um, you know, now do people have a problem with authorities keeping control? Yeah, you bet you. Some people will
Yeah.
have a problem with that. Hence the reason why they break out that and go, I am not any of these anymore, for that very
Hmm.
reason. Do other people see it differently? Yeah, possibly. They might decide to themselves that, and they do, it's like, well, I just don't want to be that person anymore because I feel I really am that person. Now,
Hmm.
other people say, oh, well, these people are confused.
Yeah.
This is where all the debate comes from. Oh, well, these people must be, these people must be mentally ill. Oh, these
Yeah.
people must be this and these people must be that. But these people genuinely believe that that's where they sit.
Yeah. And then people do the argument where they bring it back to a scientific thing, and it's like, well, unless if you've got XY or XX chromosomes, you're one or the other. You can't be anything else.
Yes, the scientists,
Yeah.
the facts. It's
Yeah.
like, this is the facts, but this is the facts in our world.
Yeah.
Whereas they're going, well, that's your world, but it's not my world.
Hmm.
So therefore, it's not my facts, is it? It's your opinion as far as I'm concerned. So see where that all comes from.
Yeah. But that topic could be blown wide open.
Of course it can.
Yeah.
But again, core fundamental beliefs, isn't it?
Yeah. Hmm.
And people have decided to change their core fundamental beliefs. It was
Yeah.
actually Will Ferrell and Harper who actually went on a road trip. That's the one I was watching at the weekend. When Elaine
Yeah.
went, what are you watching that for? Because Harper Steele is Will's best friend, who
Uh-huh.
was a writer with him on SNL Live.
Uh-huh.
And
Saturday Night Live.
he was a guy at the time. But now he decided to change and transition to a woman at 60
Mhm.
odd year old. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, Will thought, I'm going to go on a road trip with my pal.
Uh-huh.
And it was and when I'm like, what are you watching this for? And it's like, because I want to understand that.
Hmm.
I want to understand how people think. I want to understand them.
How
It
their
doesn't mean to
views
say I
on
agree
it.
with anybody,
Yeah.
but I just want to understand that
Hmm.
and that way of thinking. And that's what that was all about. So that's what I was watching at the weekend. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a really good documentary film.
Yeah. Like you say, to have that and to try and understand and get their point of view will maybe help you process that. Not change your belief, but help you process how their way of thinking
But
is.
then, yeah, but then also, then the things I saw was, then you saw the hate comments by the people when they're being in a pub in
Yeah.
Texas
Awful.
or something like that. Oh, we don't need that kind of person here and that, that, somebody that was weird and all the rest of it. It's like,
Quite
what?
horrible
And then,
derogatory thing. Yeah.
then the thing is, the great thing is they were putting it publicly. So you saw their profile names, you were able to look up, and I thought, bloody redneck.
Ah,
Typical
yeah.
redneck, kind sort of opinionated idiot,
Hmm.
never amounted to anything, but had an opinion on everything.
And that's what social media has given these people, that platform and a kind
Of
of
course it
and
has.
an influence on people when really they shouldn't. Because
Yeah, and these people should just keep quiet. But then that's the way of the world, and that's what you have to live with. Remember, because
yeah,
we are a society, and we have to learn how to work with each other and how to understand each other in order to tolerate each other on some occasions.
yeah,
And once you master that, that is when the earth and everything will be yours.
yeah. Okay. So I'm going to kind of summarize what we've covered today. And obviously we've just established really that your core beliefs are very strong. And long-term beliefs in a person help them understand how the world works and who maybe they are as a person. And these beliefs, as we've obviously seen as through our conversation, will start to develop when they're usually in their childhood. But influences as they go through their life do affect a person's personality, their decision making, and indeed their mental health as well. So
Mhm.
your core beliefs are so important, and these beliefs do act as rules for managing your relationships and your life and things as well. So people use them to set their expectations and react to stressful and difficult situations as well. However, they are not always balanced and they're not always accurate. Um, and there's nothing to say that one person's belief is wrong and others is right. That's where we get arguments and conflict.
Do you know? Do you know in the world, nobody's wrong,
Yeah,
really, because everybody thinks they're
yeah,
right,
yeah, belief. Yeah,
or they wouldn't be saying it.
yeah. So I think that's a good way for us to wrap up today. But that is hopefully we've explained that to everybody and the importance of core beliefs and shared some experiences and things as well. So if you're wondering what your core beliefs are, we gave you some tips on how to try and establish what they are, um, and whether they are helpful to you in your journey, or whether you maybe need to have a rethink and review how you approach certain situations and things.
A good book is Notes from a Friend, Tony Robbins.
I ordered it when you were away because you mentioned it in our last
Yeah,
session.
Tony Robbins is a really good book to start from. To
Mhm.
as your core beliefs, core
Yeah,
fundamentals, and actually to start finding out about you. As I said, if everybody worked on themselves, the world would be probably a much better place.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
to you,
Well,
Putin, by the way, if you're listening.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, no, I did order that Jim on your when we were talking about that previously. So yeah, and that's what brought me to bring this topic up and things today. So yeah, that's been good. Hopefully that's helped everyone. We will of course be back next Monday as usual, 12:30 for the Wealth Creation Show. Please join us then, and thanks to everybody for joining in the comments. If you're watching the rerun, please write in there. We'll still pick them up. And until next time, Jim and I will see you later.
Okay, bye bye for now.